Thank you so much for joining us. This is such a treat to be sharing this special film. It's my mother's Cuban, and I've always had this just love for Cuba. And it's very difficult for us Cuban Americans to travel to Cuba because of political reasons. So shooting a film there is a challenge. And this being my first film that I've ever shot was a second challenge, and then also making it a period piece. So we really had it stacked against us in terms of being able to pull it off. I've been an editor for many years. I've done over 50 episodes for broadcast TV, and that was my career. But I always wanted to tell my own stories. I studied writing at Columbia University. I was at film school there, and I just really was itching to tell my own stories. And I had only worked on post production, telling other people's stories, so I was ready to do that. We needed to keep our whole camera equipment very small, so that's when the C200 came in. It was great because it's a small camera and it fits in a backpack. I also didn't want sort of just the handheld feel for it. Because it's a period piece, it's supposed to take place in 1958 Cuba. I wanted the moves to be very smooth, and I wanted to lock down the camera. I wanted to have a nod to the old melodramatic films of the 50s and just have that sort of stability. And the C200 was great because it really worked well with the Ronin.
We didn't know what camera we wanted to use. We knew the circumstances were it had to be naturalistic. We were doing a more classical kind of style, that getting stuff into Cuba was extremely difficult. So we started looking at a number of different cameras that could do it that were like still cameras. Michael Mansouri at Radiant Images, that was helping us very much, said, you know, Bob, the Canons, they've got this advanced autofocus, and the autofocus was so good, we said, wow, it would allow us to work far more like tourists and people that weren't a professional group, and yet get professional quality focus, which we needed.
One backpack that had the Ronin M in it, two backpacks that we had two C200 bodies and 14 lenses in. And so one person could physically, if they had to, carry the entire camera department around in two arms. The C200s, I really love the cameras, especially the 4K raw light. For a camera that's less than $5,000, and the body weighs like 2.5 pounds or something like that, we could put it on the Ronin M and it would fit. And it would work beautifully, like if we'd put a still camera on there or something. The C200 is just such a beautiful little jewel of a camera that has such great quality and such a small, lightweight package. And it turned out to be quite spectacular.
Cuba is, for me, the main character really of the movie. And it was very important for me to capture all the architectural beauty. That's why I love the wide angle for the interiors. But then when we were out in the countryside, I really wanted to capture the green, the verdant green, which was so significant to the story. Colors are very important thematically also in the story. They all have a significance of the different class system in Cuba. So it was super important for that to come across. And I just fell in love with the way that the Canon looked when we did the test. It was just the color scheme. The color space is so beautiful. And we had the latitude to do the color grading afterwards. And I'm just beyond thrilled. We had to tow the 1950s vehicle, because the one that we ended up renting, because of the rain, it got soaked. They didn't have a top. So the engine got soaked. So in one of the shots where my lead, she had to drive stick shift over a hill, she didn't change the second gear. So the engine sort of over revved itself. So the car broke down. So that was my first day of shooting ever, anything. And it was getting dark. We left the gaffer like down the block. It was just a crazy experience. And I was just on the phone with my cousin who lived in Cuba, trying to figure out how we were going to solve it. And within minutes, the Cuban crew had figured out how to solve it. They just tied up the 1950s vehicle to the production van with a rope. And our camera assistant sat in the vehicle and put his little flashlight on the license plate. And we towed it all the way back to Havana. And I was, they're just so resilient. They're used to doing so much with so little.